Now we get a treat because we get to hear from the Majority Leader in the Pennsylvania State Senate, and that's an important position. And I can't think of a better person to be our Majority Leader in the State Senate than Joe Pittman. Let me tell you a little bit about Joe. Yeah, give him a round of applause. Let me allow you to applaud him. Joe Pittman is the Majority Leader in the Pennsylvania State Senate. He's a lifelong resident of Indiana County and represents the 41st Senatorial District in Armstrong, Indiana, Jefferson, and Westmoreland counties. Prior to being elected by his colleagues to serve as Majority Leader in 2022, Joe served as Chairman of the Senate Urban Affairs and Housing Committee, Vice Chairman of the Senate Environmental Resources and Energy Committee, and is a member of the Appropriations, Banking and Insurance, Consumer Protection and Professional Licensure, and Judiciary Committees. He was also a member of PennVest, their board of directors. He's carried on the enduring tradition of working to better his community by serving as a past board member of the United Way of Indiana and as a member of the Purchase Line Red Dragon Foundation. Joe is also a life member of the NRA, as well as a member of the Indiana County Republican Committee, Ford City Sportsmen's Association, and the Indiana Franklin Lodge number 313. Prior to joining the Senate, Joe served as former Senator Don White's chief of staff. In that role, he developed a strong working relationship with members of the General Assembly, legislative staff, and officials across several agencies. He holds a bachelor's degree in political science from Penn State, and he resides in Indiana County with his wife, Gina, and their 4 children. And you learn a lot about people when you ask them what matters to them, and when you see what matters to them, how their eyes light up when they talk about their families. And Joe told me about his wonderful family, not only his wonderful wife, but his 4 kids, 2 boys, 15 and 13, and identical twin daughters who are 9. And they are the light of his life. Please welcome our great Majority Leader, Joe Pittman.
Good afternoon, PLC, and thank you, Joe, for that very kind introduction, and I very much appreciated the time that Joe and I just spent talking, and I truly appreciate Joe's service to our Commonwealth and our community in so many capacities. It truly is an honor for me to be here as the Majority Leader of the Senate Republican Caucus, and it's a humbling experience to represent my 27 other colleagues in that role. And I'm here today to tell you that we as the Senate Republican majority believe in the promise of Pennsylvania. And so much of the promise of Pennsylvania, quite frankly, is in this room. It's in these hallways. And you can find the promise of Pennsylvania in our urban, rural, and suburban communities alike. And our agenda continues to be very simple. It's about unleashing the promise of Pennsylvania. And our agenda can be summed up in one word: empowerment. We believe in empowering the good people of Pennsylvania. We believe in empowering the families of Pennsylvania. We recognize that parents have the ultimate responsibility for their children's education. And we understand that that also means the parents must take responsibility for their children's education. We in the Senate Republican majority have led the way to grow and expand the Educational Improvement Tax Credit Program. We led the way to expand and enhance opportunities for parents to make the decisions that they think are in their students' and their children's best interest. We actually reached across the aisle last year to work in a bipartisan fashion with our governor to craft the Pennsylvania Award for Student Success Scholarship Program. The PASS Scholarship Program is one of its kind. We in the Senate passed it not once, not twice, but 3 times. The governor said he supported it. He talked a good game. He wasn't able to walk the walk. But hopefully this year, he'll back his words up with actions, and we will achieve vouchers in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We believe in empowering our families through protecting and supporting their Second Amendment right to protect themselves and their loved ones. There's no doubt that we are a nation that is devoid of law and order. And it means that we must make sure that individuals have the ability and right to pursue their constitutional obligation to protect themselves and their families. And that's what we, as a Senate Republican majority, continue to remain firm on. You know, the governor talked a lot in his budget address about the need to help fix homes, the need to help families send their children to higher education, the need to help individuals pay their utility bills. And we agree. We absolutely agree that all of those opportunities should exist. But we have a little bit of a different view on how to make those opportunities possible. And ultimately, we believe that the best way to allow individuals to fix their homes, to send their children to higher educational opportunities, to pay their utility bills, is for them to have a family-sustaining job. In fact, we in the Senate Republican majority are all about maximum wage jobs. I'm so tired of hearing about minimum wage. The conversation should be about maximum wage jobs, maximum wage opportunities, and empowering families to live the American dream. And we've done a lot in that regard. And in fact, we view one of the most fundamental ways to promoting family-sustaining jobs is to use our God-given natural resources to produce energy and electricity, not only for this Commonwealth, but for this entire nation. Indeed, the resources that we have here to produce energy and electricity are unrivaled. And we recognize that that production of that electricity and energy leads to family-sustaining jobs. It leads to economic security, but it also leads to national security, because energy independence is national security. And our national security is what actually allows us to be the lamp of liberty for the rest of the world. And if you look at what's going on across this world, there's no question that that lamp of liberty should burn more brightly now than ever before. And the reality is, it should be Pennsylvania Energy lighting that lamp of liberty. And that is a commitment of our Senate Republican majority. We believe in empowering taxpayers. Thanks to the leadership of our Appropriations Chairman, Senator Scott Martin, we have been the fiscal watchdogs for the taxpayers of this Commonwealth. Make no mistake, we do have a budgetary surplus, and we've kept that budgetary surplus for a reason, because we know that there will inevitably be a recession. There will inevitably be a rainy day. And the last thing that we ever want to do is ask the taxpayers for more of their hard-earned money. And so the question is, do we spend these dollars as the governor proposes, or do we save them to protect the taxpayers for this next rainy day? We are committed to protecting the taxpayers. And we continue to choose to empower our taxpayers. And we look for ways every single day to reduce the tax burden, to reduce the regulatory burden. My friend and colleague, Senator Kristen Phillips Hill, has led the way on permitting reform. Permitting reform is absolutely critical to unleashing the economic opportunity and the promise of Pennsylvania. And you know what was so special about the permitting reform piece of legislation that we passed? We did it in a bipartisan way. The Chamber of Commerce came together with the building trades to recognize that employers and employees have a symbiotic relationship, that they understand that if we don't have economic growth and development, we don't have jobs. And so we passed that piece of legislation bipartisanly. We're proud of that work. And unfortunately, our friends in the House had a water leak to fix and didn't have time to get that to the governor. But hopefully now that they're back open for business, they can send it to the governor's desk for his signature post-haste. We believe in empowering our law enforcement community. The District Attorney of Philadelphia, Larry Krasner, clearly can't lead He clearly can't follow, and so we politely asked him to just get out of the way. We passed legislation to empower our Attorney General to enforce the laws on the Southeast Pennsylvania Transit Authority. We know that the city of brotherly love has become a crime-ridden embarrassment, and we must fix it. And so we've said to our Attorney General, appoint a special prosecutor, enforce the laws, back up the women and men of the SEPTA police force, allow them to do their job, to clean up that transit system, and to restore law and order to the city of Philadelphia. And we achieved that, and we're going to work to restore law and order to the city of Philadelphia. We have passed countless pieces of legislation to crack down on drug dealers. We have passed countless pieces of legislation to support our law enforcement community. And we have passed legislation recognizing that border security is a Pennsylvania problem. We called on the governor just 2 weeks ago to send the National Guard to Texas to support the efforts of Governor Abbott to secure his border, because his border is just as much our border. And we realize that a nation without borders is not a nation. And we must support and protect the efforts of governors on the border states to protect their people, because we know that the crisis there knows no borders and knows no bounds. We have also moved to empower the voter. We recognize that election integrity is fundamental to keeping this constitutional republic intact. Our first order of business in the Senate was to pass a constitutional amendment on voter identification. Few people remember that the current law says that when you vote for the first time, you have to show identification. So if you have your identification the first time, why wouldn't you have it the second time, or the third time, or the fourth time? It seems pretty basic. So let's make constitutional voter ID a priority. Let's put it before the voters and make sure that we have the integrity in our electoral system that we deserve. And I want to say we have made some progress in that regard. We banned Zuckerbucks. Zuckerbucks are no longer allowed in this Commonwealth. We've banned the sale to third parties of the data of voters in this Commonwealth. And we achieved a significant victory in federal court just last week, where the Third Circuit Court of Appeals said, you know what, when the General Assembly uses the word shall in law, they mean shall. And what they said is you shall sign, you shall date your ballot. They agreed with us, and we won that victory. And that's another step toward election security. But make no mistake, we understand we have much more to do in that regard. And we recognize that there's nothing more fundamental than securing our elections, securing our borders, and giving our families opportunities and empowering them. Now, we have made progress and strides in our agenda, but while we're in the Senate Republican majority, we can only do so much. As our governor likes to lament, he has the only divided legislature in the nation. I would like to fix that in November. We have to return our friends in the House of Representatives into the Republican majority. That is job number one. We also need to make sure that we have solid conservatives elected to each and one of every row offices that we have on the ballot in November. And we need to make sure that Dave McCormick becomes the next United States Senator for Pennsylvania. Because if we do not win, we cannot govern. And we cannot win if we are not united. You know, in Joe's very kind introduction, he mentioned my family. And I'm very proud of my family. We've been honored to be married for 18 years now, and we're blessed with 4 beautiful, healthy children. But I can assure you that our marriage has not endured because we always agree. In fact, our marriage has endured because we disagree sometimes. We make mistakes, or at least I make mistakes. Let me clarify that. I make mistakes. I have moments of disappointment for my family. But you know what? We reconcile those differences. We keep our view on the big picture. We focus on the long term, and we understand what really matters. And that is keeping our family together, supporting our family in times of need, building up our family, and giving our children every opportunity to grow and succeed. And my friends, we have to view our political process in the same way. Our opponents are not from within. Let's be clear. And there are moments in this big conservative family where we will disagree. We will disappoint. We will make mistakes. But it's incumbent on all of us to reconcile those differences when those differences occur, focus on the true opponent, which isn't even the Democratic Party. There are good, hardworking, common-sense Democrats in this Commonwealth. That's not the issue. The issue is the progressive, radical movement that we see sweeping the United States. That is the opposition. That needs to be our focus, and we need to be clear that when we leave this conference, that we don't have energy just today, we don't have energy just tomorrow, but we are energized every single day from now until November and beyond November to recognize that we have to be united, we have to come together, we have to win so we can truly govern. That's what this is all about. We in the Senate Republican majority will continue to fight every single day for our principles. We will figure out how in divided government to negotiate issues without negotiating principles. But we need help. We need support. We need to strengthen our own majority. We need that House Republican majority, and we need more victories not only this November, but beyond. You know, the governor continues to say he wants us to be more like Ohio. Well, you know what Ohio has that Pennsylvania doesn't? A Republican governor. So my friends, let's keep at it. Let's fight the good fight. And I ask you above all to pray for me, to pray for all of your elected officials, especially those with whom you disagree, and to keep fighting the good fight. God bless all of you, and God bless this Commonwealth. Thank you very much.